Alright, y'all, so I'm back with another Bible reading. Yesterday, I did read my Bible outside. I think I read 4 pages, maybe I only read 2. But regardless, I'm back for today. I just read it, to myself outside because I didn't really feel like recording. But I am on page 418 to 419. So I'm just going to start right here. I'm doing pretty good today. I'm feeling really good. I got to go on a walk, just being grateful for everything I have. So I'm really glad that I'm doing okay today. That's something that I'm very grateful for. But for right now, I'm just going to start reading. My internet isn't really working right now because, I'm out. So hopefully this is recording. I'm pretty sure it is. But I'm going to start on page 418. The instructions concerning these girls were that before they were taken to the king's bed, each one was given 6 months of beauty treatment with oil, myrrh, followed by 6 months with special perfume and ointments. Then as each girl's turn came for spending the night with King Ahasuerus, she was given her choice of clothing or jewelry she wished. To enhance her beauty, she was taken to the king's apartment in the evening and the next morning returned to the second harem? I don't know. Not too sure what that says. Where the king's wife lived. There she was under the care of Shehagas, another of the king's eunuchs. I'm not too sure what that word is. Eunuchs, and lived there the rest of her life, never seeing the king again unless he had especially enjoyed her and called for her by name. When it was Ether's turn to go to the king, she accepted the advice of Haggai, the Eunuch, in charge of the harem, dressing according to his instructions, and all the other girls exclaimed with delight when they saw her. So Ether was taken to the palace of the king in January of the 7th year of his reign. Well, the king loved Ether more than any of the other girls. He was so delighted with her that he set the royal crown on her head and declared her queen instead of Vashti. To celebrate the occasion, he threw another big party for all his officials and servants, giving generous gifts to everyone and making grants to the province in the form of remission of taxes. Later, the king demanded a second bevy of beautiful girls by the time Mored, whatever that name is, had become a government official. Oh, where was I at? Esther still hadn't told anyone she was a Jewess, for she was still following Mordecai's orders, just as she had in her home. One day, as Mordecai was on duty at the palace, 2 of the king's, I don't know what that word is, Bigthan and Thresh, who were guards at the palace gate, became angry at the king and plotted to assassinate him. Mordecai heard about it and passed on the information to Queen Esther, who told the king, crediting Mordecai with the information. An investigation was made, the 2 men found guilty and impaled alive. This was all duly recorded in the book of the history of King Ahasuerus' reign. Soon afterwards, King Ahasuerus appointed Haman, son of whatever that name is, as prime minister. He was the most powerful official in the empire next to the king himself. Now all the king's officials bowed before him in deep reverence whenever he passed by, for so the king had commanded. Ooh, sorry, I got the hiccups. Oh my gosh. By Mordecai. My boy. Oh my gosh. I didn't have the hiccups all day, and now that I'm trying to read, of course, now I got them. Let's see. Passed by for so the king had commanded. Mordecai refused to bow. Why are you disobeying the king's commandment? The others demanded. Day after day, but he still refused. Finally, they spoke to Haman about it to see whether Mordecai could get away with it because of his being a Jew, which was the excuse he had given them. Haman was furious, but decided not to lay hands on Mordecai alone, but to move against all of Mordecai's people, the Jews, and destroy all of them throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. The most propitious, I have no idea what that word is, I'm sorry, propitious time for this occasion was determined by throwing dice. This was done in April of the 12th year of the reign of Ahasuerus, and February of the following year was the date indicated. Haman now approached the king about the matter. There is a certain race of people scattered through all the province of your kingdom, he began, and their laws are different from those of any other nation, and they refuse to obey the king's law. Therefore, it is not in the king's interest to let them live. If it pleases the king, issue a decree that they be destroyed, and I will pay 20 million into the royal treasury for the expenses involved in this purge. The king agreed, confirming his decision by removing his ring from his finger and giving it to Haman, telling him, "Keep the money, but go ahead and do as you like with these people. Whatever you think is best." Two or 3 weeks later, Haman called in the king's secretaries and dictated letters to the governors and officials throughout the empire, to each province in its own languages and dialects. These letters were signed in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with his ring. They were then sent by messengers into all the province of the empire, decreeing that the Jews, young and old, women and children, must all be killed on the 28th day of February of the following year, and their property given to those who killed them. A copy of this edict was later stated, must be proclaimed as law in every province and made known to all your people, so that they will be ready to do their duty on the appointed day. The edict went out by the king's speediest coroners, I'm not too sure, after being first proclaimed in the city of Shushan. Then the king and Haman sat down for a drinking spree as the city fell into confusion and panic. When Mordecai learned what had been done, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes and went out into the city crying with a loud and bitter wail. Then he stood beside the gate of the palace, for no one was permitted to enter in mourning clothes. And throughout all the province there was great mourning among the Jews, fasting, weeping, and despair at the king's decree, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther, maids, and eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai, she was deeply distressed and sent clothing to him to replace the sackcloth, but he refused it. Then Esther sent for Hathach, one of the king's, I wish I knew how to pronounce that word, but I just can't pronounce it right now, who had been appointed as her attendant, and told him to go out to Mordecai and find out what was the trouble, or what the trouble was, and why he was acting like that. So Asach went out to the city square and found Mordecai just outside the palace gates, and heard the whole story from him, and about the 20 million Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasury for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai also gave Hattich a copy of the king's decree, dooming all Jews, and told him to show it to Esther and to tell her what was happening, and that she should go to the king and plead for her people. So Hattich returned to Ether with Mordecai's message. Esther told I wish I could pronounce these names, but I legit just can't do it. Ouch. Go back and say to Mordecai, all the world knows that anyone, whether man or woman, who goes into the king's inner court without his summons is doomed to die unless the king holds out his golden scepter. And the king has not called for me to come to him in more than a month. So Hattich gave Ether's... I keep saying Ether, but I don't think that's what it is, but I'm just going to keep saying it regardless. Got a bunch of bugs laying on me, sorry. Okay. Let's see, where was I at? Month, so I gave... This was Mordecai's reply to Ether. Do you think that you will escape there in the palace when all other Jews are killed? If you keep quiet at this time like this, God will deliver the Jews from some other source, but you and your relatives will die. What's more, who can say but that God has brought you into this palace for just such time as this? Then Ether said to tell Mordecai, go and gather... Oh, my phone's at 10%. Go and gather together all the Jews of Shishia and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. And I and my maids will do the same. And then, though it is strictly forbidden, I will go in to see the king, and if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai did as Ether told him to. 3 days later, Ether put on her royal robes and entered the inner court just beyond the royal hall of the palace, where the king was sitting upon his royal throne. And when he saw Queen Ether standing there in the inner court, he welcomed her, holding out the golden scepter to her. So Ether approached and touched its tip. Then the king asked her, what do you wish, Queen Ether? What is your request? I will give it to you even if it is half of the kingdom. And Ether replied, if it pleases your majesty, I just want you and Haman to come to the banquet I have prepared for you. Today. Let's see here. The king turned to his aides. Tell Haman to hurry, he said. So the king and Haman came to Ether's banquet. During the wine course, the king said to Ether, now tell me what you really want, and I will give it to you, even if it is half of the kingdom. Okay, my phone is about to die pretty soon, so I'm just going to cut it there. I wanted to do 4 pages today, but hopefully I can do 2 more before I go to bed tonight, if I remember. If not, it is what it is. I'll do 2 more pages, or hopefully 4 tomorrow if my phone's charged. But I'm very close to the book of Job, and I'm pretty excited about that because I know that's a good story. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. God bless you all, and I hope you all have an amazing and beautiful day outside. Go outside and, enjoy the sun, do whatever you got to do your prayers, or if you don't believe in God, I pray that you still have an amazing and beautiful day. Just appreciate whatever you have, even if it's the small things, whatever you got to do to be happy, do it. Love you all, and peace out.